So what Calgary did was they brought in their own vaccine passport bylaw, which removed choice and said all eligible businesses must implement the vaccine passport. And that happened to catch rec centers. Rec centers were not supposed to be caught this way, but Calgary has decided that it's going to frustrate the provincial purposes here.
Now, with the donations at fightvaccinepassports.com, we're actually mounting a legal challenge. What does it feel like to have that support from people out there to be able to actually take this to court?
Yeah, a lot of people have really leaned into the group for support. There's lots of people who are finding that they don't even have support from their own families or friends. So we've become quite a good, like a community. Mm-hmm. People are getting together and rallying around each other when bad things happen and that sort of thing within that group, which is kind of neat to see. I am super thankful that it's such a supportive group with regards to the case, because this is like totally out of my element.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a huge support. It's been awesome.
Warning, censorship.
Recreation is one of the areas that has been most heavily impacted, particularly hockey rinks that are now restricting even those under the age of 18 from accessing youth recreation. We have taken on one of these cases as one of our fightvaccinepassports.com cases. Thanks to your donations, this group that is advocating for youth to have access to recreation is going to have their day in court. The man taking them there is Derek Fromm with a legal challenge against the City of Calgary's problematic restriction. Derek, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Wonderful. We're out here on the hockey ring. Maybe just give us an update and clarify some of the details surrounding this restriction of youth athletes.
So early in the fall, the provincial government here in Alberta brought in something called the Restrictions Exemption Program. Most people call it a vaccine passport. So brought in this program, and it said that eligible businesses could actually rely on this program to remain open with different restrictions. So for instance, if you're a restaurant, it makes your life much more easy if you can actually have an open dining room. So you would implement this vaccine passport. But what happened is the City of Calgary decided in its wisdom that this wasn't going far enough. Leaving the choice up to business owners whether or not to go into this program wasn't good enough for Calgary. So what Calgary did was they brought in their own vaccine passport bylaw, which removed choice and said all eligible businesses must implement the vaccine passport. And that happened to catch rec centers. Rec centers were not supposed to be caught this way, but Calgary has decided that it's going to frustrate the provincial purposes here. What they've decided is that kids who are over the age of 12 and over, I should say, that those kids must now provide either proof of vaccination or proof of negative test just to go to their sports, their Girl Guides, their events like that, the youth rec events. And so the province has been very clear from the beginning. Dr. Dina Hinshaw even released a statement on this, saying that the province and public health recognizes that during this pandemic, the cost and the toll that youth have paid has been enormous. And for mental health purposes, the province very intentionally did not want to burden youth with this. And so I don't know what the purposes that Calgary had for this are, but it certainly wasn't a public health purpose. My understanding is they had no expert evidence presented to council before this decision was made. There certainly was no extraordinary event in Calgary amongst youth warranting this sort of response. But the response is that many kids have either been forced out of their chosen sports and recreational activities, or they've chosen not to be involved with it, or the other side of it is that they have to pay for expensive tests. So if you're a hockey player, for instance, you might practice on a Monday, a Thursday, and have a game on a Saturday. Well, if you need to provide a test and then have 72 hours for which that test result is valid, you might be testing twice a week, which means going to a Shoppers Drug Mart or a Walmart or a Costco and paying out of pocket for this. And some of our clients, the cost at the end of their recreation season is going to be around $4,000. Yeah. This is on top of what they're already paying to have their kids involved in this and the burdens that families are paying. So to say that this is there's no extraordinary cost to this is just wrong. And the City of Calgary just did this, it looks like, to control folks in the rec centers. And so we are fighting for those kids, and we are going to soon be making arguments. We hope the sooner the better. We're currently wrangling with the city over timeline right now. But when we do get our day in court, we're going to provide a vigorous argument on behalf of children in this province to be able to play.
And so the organization standing up for these youth is called Free to Play. Who comprises this organization? We're going to speak to one person who's involved, but who got together and who is really advocating for these youth?
So there's a number of clients that we have. There's 3 that have been just outstanding. They stepped up immediately and they organized a group. I think it's over 1,000 parents in this area of Alberta, in southern Alberta, Calgary, and there's some from outside this area too, in Edmonton and elsewhere, but majority I believe are in this area. So it's over 1,000 parents representing, I'm sure, many more kids than that. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg, honestly. That's just the parents who happen to be on social media, who happen to be able to catch this group and join. There's a lot of people that this has affected. A lot of children have been affected by this. And it's a big movement.
I actually found the group on Facebook. It was started by my friend Tanya, and right at the beginning, I was like maybe a week in, and I was like, "Yep, I'm on board." I loved the fact that she was going to fight for the kids, and I am all in to fight for the kids as well. So I connected with her. And then she and I just sort of took off with it.
And the group is mostly comprised of parents who play or whose kids play hockey, involved in sports. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not all hockey. It's everything from like scouts to, jiu-jitsu and like everything. And there's actually lots of people, honestly, who don't even have kids in sports, who just support it. So grandparents, aunts, uncles, even just people who just think it's wrong. So it's a variety.
And what has it been like? I mean, this started with a bit of an online group and people saying enough is enough. Now with the donations at fightvaccinepassports.com, we're actually mounting a legal challenge. What does it feel like to have that support from people out there to be able to actually take this to court?
Yeah, a lot of people have really leaned into the group for support. There's lots of people who are finding that they don't even have support from their own families or friends. So we've become quite a good, like a community. People are getting together and rallying around each other when bad things happen and that sort of thing within that group, which is kind of neat to see. I am super thankful that it's such a supportive group with regards to the case, because this is like totally out of my element.
Yeah.
So it's a huge support. It's been awesome.
So what have the challenges been? Obviously, you're like you said, you're a tight-knit community, but now you're taking on the city. Has that been an easy process, or what's that been like?
No, it's been actually very lengthy. I thought it was going to be kind of an in and out thing. I mean, obviously, I wasn't totally sure. I've never done it before. But what ended up happening is like we filed, and then it was... we didn't hear back from anybody. And then when the date kind of finally came, Derek followed up with them and found out that the mailroom guy who received the legal documents never actually forwarded it on and totally screwed up. So we're like, well, that's awesome. So now we're stuck waiting again. And that's super frustrating, especially since we were kind of hoping that people might be able to get back into sports in the new year, but now I don't know what that's going to look like.
Well, certainly it appears that these parents, one of the lines you can cross is going after their kids. That for many is the line where they say enough is enough. For everyone out there, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Derek, I want to thank you for the update, and to the City of Calgary and GOT Gondek. It's pretty clear you're on thin ice. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Sos. If you agree that kids should simply be able to enjoy sports, that kids should just be able to go down to their local arena and play hockey, no questions asked, go to fightvaccinepassports.com now. You can chip in and make a donation. Any donations that you make there go to the Democracy Fund, which is a registered charity. So you're going to receive a tax receipt, and you're going to help these kids get back to what they should be doing, which is just playing hockey.